Hey everybody, thanks for taking the time to watch this DVD. It's the best way I know to come into your living room and let you hear my heart a little bit about this thing that we're calling the Next Generation Project. I want to give you just a little more background than I could ever give on a Sunday to what led us to this point of launching out in this campaign that we're calling the Next Generation Project. As we got ready in 2009, preparing for our 10th birthday in January of 2010, I really began to seek the Lord on behalf of our church family. I began to ask the Lord about the next 10 years. I'm a sentimental guy. I'm big into milestones, and I've just felt like I was sensing this turning of the page in the life of our church, and I was really spending a lot of time alone asking the Lord about this. And there was a couple of things the Lord said to me. The first thing He said that I think was really for me and for some of my closest friends that have been with me the longest here at Cross Timbers was, He said this: the next 10 years cannot look like the first 10 years. And in other words, those of us who had experienced the joy of launching out in this church family, sometimes we have a tendency to kind of long for the good old days. And God reminded me of His word where He says, "Behold, I'm doing a new thing," and that the future that God had for us was deeper and fuller and richer even than the joys of the first 10 years at Cross Timbers. I didn't really understand all about that, but the Lord's just continued to press that upon me. And then secondly, I remember sitting there one day and just praying about this, and I grabbed a piece of paper and a pen, and I felt like the Lord was just impressing this on my heart. And these are the words I wrote: 10,000 Spirit-filled, baptized believers walking in freedom, committed to meeting the needs of the poor and broken, both locally and around the world. And as we gathered for our birthday celebration the last Sunday of January this year, I shared that with the thousands who came to celebrate our 10-year birthday. And we talked about 10,000 Spirit-filled, baptized believers walking in freedom, committed to meeting the needs of the poor and broken, both locally and around the world. What most don't know is that our staff began to work behind the scenes talking about what did we need to do? What did we need to prepare for? How do we need to change the way we operated so that we could get in line with what we firmly believe to be God's vision for our church over the next 10 years? A couple of ways I knew that wasn't me, that had to be the Lord. The first one was it had a number in it. And I really, for lots of reasons I don't need to go into here, I kind of shy away from numbers. But God said it's 10,000 Spirit-filled, baptized believers. Secondly, I started thinking about how many people would have to come to a church to have a core of 10,000 Spirit-filled, baptized believers who had done the hard work to get set free and then were regularly investing their lives in people in their backyard and around the world. That's a lot of people. So I knew this was a God-sized dream. And that really, as we begin to talk about that, I started thinking about the next 10 years, and I started thinking about legacy. I was going to Scripture and reading about legacy and all the stuff about the next generation and about our children's children. And, I'm getting to a point in 10 years, I'll be 56 years old. The church will be 20 years old. Hopefully, I'm going to have grandkids by that time. And I'm thinking about what do we pass down to the next generation? And so the culmination of all of that and lots of stuff I'll talk to you about during this series is the Next Generation Project. It is our commitment to building our legacy to pass down for the next generation. It's honorable, it's biblical, and I believe it's a God-ordained time for something like this. So let me begin with this. I think as we pass down to the next generation, the ministry of Cross Timbers, as they're raised up as leaders and take ownership in what's happening here, the first thing that I want to do is I want to retire the debt of the church. In the first 10 years, by acquiring the Keller campus, by acquiring the Denton campus, by funding this facility at Argyle, the deficit between what was given and what was needed to build this facility, we've got about $7.5 million worth of debt. We pay $720,000 a year in principal and interest payments on all of our facilities. I don't think it's unhealthy debt, but I do think this. I dream of what we can do with $720,000 for ministry initiatives throughout the year. We've had single moms come to the front of our churches. We've done things like Fix My Ride and other events to help the poor and the needy. We want to do more of that. We want to help more people. We want to enlist more people in our army, this movement called Cross Timbers that's trying to make a difference in people's lives. And that ministry initiative dollars will help us. The other thing that, and I talk to my kids about this a lot, is Mike and I are committed. We've been moving toward a debt-free life as we follow the teaching of Dave Ramsey. Is when you're unencumbered by debt, you're released to say yes to God in bigger ways than you ever have in the past. And so that's what I want to hand to the next generation. It's a big part of what we do. It's $7.5 million. I want to invest in the kids at Cross Timbers. I want them to have facilities that are safe, that are comfortable, and that are very functional to help us spread the gospel to our kids. I want us to do that at all 3 of our campuses. You know, Keller folks, you have the nicest campus as far as it relates to facilities. The other 2 places we've had challenges with through the years. We've never been much about buildings, but I don't want to continue to transfer that to our kids. We want to spend about $4 million. We want to renovate in a major way on our campuses and make sure that our facilities for our kids and student ministry are not just good enough, but they're highly functional and they're adding to the value of pouring Jesus in the lives of kids. That's going to cost about $4 million, and we'll be telling you more about that. Here's a couple of things I'm really excited about that I can't wait to see come to fruition in the life of our church. 42% of the world's hunger is in the nation of India. We've got ministry partners in India, both native Indians and our partnership in SOS. And we have found, you know, this summer I went to Mozambique, and the reason I went is I wanted to see a fully functioning food factory. You're going to hear more about a food factory. I know a lot about it now, and I know that you can feed thousands of people a month if you build a food factory. And a food factory in the city of Mumbai for the nation of India is going to cost us about $1 million. And I want us to build that. We're going to get that built. I also love our partnership with Pastor Dongo. I love what he's doing in the lives of kids. I loved meeting about 200 pastors when I went to Uganda this summer, not just in Kampala, but from the surrounding area, and watching the way they rely on Pastor Dongo to help the poorest of the poor children. He's building a school. It's 5 stories. It's an L-shaped building. You're going to see some rough video of the early construction. It's going to take $1 million to complete that facility, and I want us to build it. I want to put in Kampala and in Mumbai, I want to build physical facilities that have somewhere on them the logo or the name of Cross Timbers, and I want us to be able to say to our kids, hey, we built that together. We built that. This is going to outlive us, and the day is coming when for our children, we're going to hand them the keys, figuratively speaking, to these kind of efforts around the world and say, you be a good steward of it. And I think it's going to launch us in places that we have never been before, and I'm very, very excited about it. I'm excited about this concept of building a disaster relief fund. You know that we've been involved in Haiti. I'm so proud of what we did in raising money for Katrina. But the fact of the matter is, the first 7 or 8 days of those kind of natural disasters are the most critical times. And by the time churches get money gathered and people that can go, you lose a lot of lives. And so here's what we want to do. We want to take $500,000. We want to put it in a trust, an interest-bearing trust. We want to buy some supplies, and we want to warehouse them, and we want to begin to train our members. And so when a natural disaster happens, we've got money and supplies ready to go, and with 24 hours, we can get them anywhere around the world so that they can be serving and meeting the needs of people. It's a God-sized dream. I believe that if we seed this project, I believe the Lord's going to bring other ministry partners and churches in with us. But I want us to be first. I want us to be a leader in this, in evangelical Christianity in America. And I think this is a way to do it. Also, as you well know, every fall we do a thing called a celebration offering. It funds our benevolence. It funds our ongoing mission projects. It helps us fund what happens in students and kids. It funds the Healing Place. It began as a funding mechanism for the Healing Place. And a part of this first Next Generation project offering is going to be this year's seed money for those outreach ministries for the coming year. It's a big dream. It's $15 million. But it's an achievable dream. It's a dream that will specifically and strategically launch us into the next 10 years of becoming 10,000 Spirit-filled, baptized believers walking in freedom, committed to meeting the needs of the poor and broken, both locally and around the world. So 2 things that I want you to hear, and the reason that I made this DVD, because you could listen to this stuff from anybody, but I want you to hear me say this. Number 1, I want you to hear from my heart that I believe that the Lord is calling us to do this. I believe that 10,000 Spirit-filled baptized believers walking in freedom, committed to meeting the needs of the poor and broken, both locally and around the world. I believe the Lord spoke that. I believe the Lord has brought us to a place in the life of our church for the next 10 years that He wants to see this done. That's why I'm so passionately sharing it. I believe it's from the Lord. I really, really do. And I'm ready to put all my chips in the middle of the table. The second thing I want to tell you is this. I believe this is a game changer. I want to do something bold. This kind of project makes my heart beat kind of fast on lots of levels. My heart beats fast about the opportunities. My heart beats fast with nervousness about the kind of commitment that I'm asking you to make. But you know what? It's good for your heart to beat fast from time to time. I want to do something bold. I want to do something bigger than us. I want to do something that will live beyond us. I want to do something that will launch us out into being the kind of church that I know you want to be a part of, a church that is making a real, tangible difference in the lives of people. And so I ask you to do this. Just do what Mike and I have been doing for several months. Just pray. Just pray and ask the Lord what He would have you to do. This $15 million project is going to happen over the next 3 years. And the commitments that we're making is an over and above our first fruit offering for the next 3 years. And I want you to pray about how the Lord would want you to invest in this, because I'm presenting you, I believe, with an incredible God-ordained, Spirit-led opportunity. I believe God has created us for such a time as this. I am believing that God's ready to do something exceedingly abundantly beyond what we could ask or imagine, and the satisfaction of doing it together. Looking back in 3 years and saying, a debt-free church that can say yes to God, that's built quality children's facilities on all of its campuses, and a school in Uganda, a food factory in India, that is a part of leading the church in America in disaster relief. I think that's something worth investing in. And so I just want to thank you for taking the time to listen today. And I want you to join me in praying that God would use us through the Next Generation project.